What does manhood mean to you?
Well, I really think manhood is a decision, a mindset, one that differentiates the qualities of an adult versus a child and just guides how we interact with others in the world. And I really think we manifest our manhood in a couple of ways. And, just give you a couple of examples. How we nurture and protect the children in our communities, how we honor and support our elders, how we love and respect our significant others, and probably most importantly, how we make choices to stand up for our own dignity and what's right for our communities.
Hi, and welcome to another edition of King Crush Thursday, the series where we highlight and uplift Black men, because frankly, not too many people are doing it. My name is Val Gay, and I'm super excited to bring this brother to you today. Let's see. He is a DC native, Washington, DC native, but he is a citizen of the world, having lived in multiple countries over the years. And this gives him a much more broader perspective to the world. He spent 30 years in corporate America, and now he's a social entrepreneur. Please welcome Mr. Derrick Tarver. Hi, Derrick.
Very nice to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you so much for being here. And your presence here is helping to put a wedge in the very myopic and narrow window that Black men are often seen through in our society, especially in media. I often say that the images and the narratives that we see are not necessarily incorrect. Often they are incorrect, but most certainly they are incomplete. And so we are doing our part to spread the word that Black men are as myriad as the number of Black men that are walking the planet. And most of you are doing the things that we need folks to do in our society, taking care of our families, being role models to our communities. Because ultimately, I would love for a young king who may or may not have a positive Black male role model to come to this repository, see the same 6 questions, and be able to find guidance there. And then the same 6 questions answered by so many positive and successful Black men. And then for the rest of us who are neither male or even Black, for us to be able to come to this repository and also be enlightened and have our minds expanded and our experiences expanded, and perhaps that we can be a part of the solution of making the world a more equitable place for everyone. And so I'm so grateful that you are here. And I want to get started with the first question, which is, what does manhood mean to you?
Well, I really think manhood is a decision, a mindset, one that differentiates the qualities of an adult versus a child and just guides how we interact with others in the world. And I really think we manifest our manhood in a couple of ways. And, just give you a couple of examples. How we nurture and protect the children in our communities, how we honor and support our elders, how we love and respect our significant others, and probably most importantly, how we make choices to stand up for our own dignity and what's right for our communities. Now, I know there are lots of cultures that have rites of passage for manhood at a certain age, and I think they play a really, really important role. But I really do think that manhood is a decision, a mindset on how we interact with others. And that transition may come at different times for different people. And I think in Philadelphia in particular, this is just so incredibly important because the gun violence epidemic really kind of suggests that the concept of manhood has kind of been twisted for a lot of young people.
Yes, yes. Agreed. Thank you so much. So, Derrick, who and or what is important to you?
Well, I'd say that's my inner circle. And I'll say some more about, what that means for me. But, they're literally my daily life support. And, the folks in my inner circle are folks who keep me grounded and centered. who help me cope with these really, really crazy times that we're living in today. They help me envision what's possible. But probably most importantly, the folks in my inner circle are the folks who encourage me to follow my dream. And they're really kind of a patchwork quilt of family and friends and colleagues and mentors and advisors. And they've morphed over the years. But I'd say right now, like the nucleus of my inner circle is my mom and my life partner, Tanya. And some really other important folks in my inner circle are the kids in the next generation because they keep me focused on what's important. And for me, honestly, that's just using the gifts and the experience that God has given me to do some good in this world. And I just feel like I've been so blessed to learn some amazing new skills while, working at some of the best companies in the world, like Procter and Gamble and Tom Mobile, and have experienced the people and the cultures of over 45 countries. But I know that to whom much is given, much is expected. So I just know that I have an obligation to share what I've learned and experienced with others. And that is what's important to me.
That's beautiful. That is really beautiful. Thank you so much. So, Derrick, how do you want us to see you?
I just want folks to see me authentically. In all honesty, I spent a good part of my life following the path that others expected of me and crafting my identity around those expectations. And it really wasn't until I really grasped what it means to be beautifully and wonderfully made that I truly embraced my authenticity. You know, it's funny, there was a time in my early 20s when people used to call me eclectic. I honestly, I didn't know how to take that. But now being eclectic is really a big part of my identity. And there's no single adjective, I think, that describes me. And I love that about myself. And as I continue to learn and to grow, I hope those adjectives change over time. But, for now, to answer your question, I hope that people see me as inquisitive. I hope they see me as thoughtful, as empathetic. But probably most importantly, at this stage of my life, I hope they see me as a builder of the future. I feel like we're at a real crossroads in society, and through my 501(c)(3, that could be me foundation, I'm seen as someone building a future where kids can confidently say, that could be me doing whatever they can dream of.
That's really beautiful. Thank you. That's wonderful. Thank you so much. So, question four, Derrick, is what is your epic dream?
The dream is honestly just to do what I love every day while hopefully doing some good. I'm a big believer in enjoying the journey over arriving at the destination. So, honestly, I feel like I'm living my dream now, but with so much more to look forward to. So, whether they know it or not, my parents taught me a lot about this mindset. They both kind of threw caution to the wind, took some detours from the traditional path, and even when it seemed risky or others couldn't understand why. So I really do tend to think more in terms of kind of interconnected journeys than dreams or destinations. And now I'll give you an example. I took a 1 year sabbatical after spending 30 years in corporate America. And at the end of that journey, I was connected back to Philadelphia, where I went to high school, and where I was inspired to embark on this new journey in the nonprofit world. So, like, I have no idea what my next journey is going to be, but as long as I'm learning something new every day and doing some good every day, um, honestly, that's dream enough for me.
That's wonderful. Thank you. So, you've been answering question five all along implicitly, but I'm going to ask you explicitly. Mr. Derrick Tarver, who are you?
An interesting question. Um, I wear so many different hats that depends on which hat I'm wearing at the time. But at the moment, I wear three primary hats that define who I am. I'm a son, I'm a life partner, and I'm a social entrepreneur. And the first two are probably pretty self-explanatory. So maybe I'll say a little bit more about the social entrepreneur role, which honestly kind of stumbled into. I'm going to be honest about that. In my early 20s, I took my first entrepreneurial risk, and I bought a couple of apartment buildings. And shortly after, I was approached by a social worker who asked me to house some clients in a program she was running, a felony mental health court diversion program. It was over 25 years ago, and I'm still providing permanent supportive housing to give young people a second chance. And when I learned that making money and doing good aren't mutually exclusive, I found a business model that not only sustains my finances, but also adds to my purpose. And that's a lot about, kind of who I am. And then it snowballed into other ventures, including my nonprofit, which I mentioned. And we're using AI creative expression technologies to teach underserved youth social emotional skills and the coping skills that I've learned over the years. And it's something that I want to pass on to the next generation.
That is really wonderful. Thank you so much. That's awesome. So here we are already at question 6, which is there anything I should ask you that I didn't ask you, or you wanted me to ask you that I didn't? In other words, what did I miss?
Well, as an outside observer, sometimes, looking at the lives of others, one thing I've noticed is that, there are times when literally the entire trajectory of someone's life changes, sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. And so I think maybe I would have wanted you to ask me about, some of my life inflection points, those moments when literally the trajectory of my life changed. And, I've had a lot of those, some good and some bad. But as it relates to your first question about manhood, I'd say an important one came later in life than honestly I would have, thought or what I would have planned for myself. Um, and it was a conscious decision to quit my job, take a sabbatical, and craft a plan for what comes next. And literally, when I did that, the entire trajectory of my life changed. Um, and I decided to put my well-being first and just trust that the universe had better things in store for me. So, I always just kind of keep in mind a quote that I've had on my desk for decades, and it says, failure is not an option. It's just a nagging possibility that keeps me focused. And so, that life inflection point was just a really important one for me. One that I feel good about.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful for the trajectory of your life and how you've stepped in and, taken control of your life. I love hearing you talk about taking care of yourself first. I mean, oftentimes leaders don't do that. And it's usually to the detriment of themselves and then later to other people. So I'm so glad to hear you've done that. Now you've been able to parlay all of your experiences into things that, as you said, you can do well and do good at the same time, which is
Absolutely.
really, really wonderful to hear. And more people need to hear that is not a trade off and that you can be supportive of your community and make out well for yourself, that they're not mutually exclusive. And I love that. So I thank you and I honor you, my king. I pray that you have that your epic dream comes true sooner rather than later. And I'm just so grateful that you've been with us here today. Thank you so much.
You, Valerie, thank you for what you do. I never knew there was such a thing as a chief creative officer of a major city. I'm so grateful for this city. You were in this position. So thank you for all you do.
Absolutely. Thank you. I'm so grateful. This platform was up and running long before I was appointed chief cultural officer, and I'm grateful. I'm grateful I still get to be and do all the things that I get to do and support my community writ large, all of the communities that I reside in, if you will. Um, and so stay right there because I want to thank the audience for joining us today. I hope that you enjoyed this conversation as much as I have. And if there is a positive and successful Black man in your life who you want to see highlighted in or heard from in this forum, please click the link below, fill out the nomination form, and we'll go from there. I often say that success does not equal what a man does for a living. Um, it is, for me, I am really interested in the content of the man's character and how he is making an impact in his community, as Derrick is. Whether it starts with the nuclear family and radiates out to the community writ large. Those brothers we want to highlight and have the world know more about what they are, what they're doing, and who they are. And so please stay tuned next week for yet another amazing king. And oh, yeah, I forgot. We have merch. please go to our website, kingcrushthursday.com. Please support us with the merch. We have some really cool items there. And I just hope that you will spread love, and I'll see you next week. Thanks so much. And Derrick, thank you so much for this great interview. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Val. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks, you too.